After the Belgian Grand Prix, F1 is heading into summer break. Drivers go home, the teams are forced to start working on their cars, the FIA have nothing to fuck up, and Ferrari strategists are hopefully working on their brains. So what is there to take away for you and me as we have 3 weeks to talk smart before F1 returns? Let's talk it through, team by team, starting off with Red Bull Racing. I mean, what can I say? Absolutely incredible work from them. They built a car that is just perfect, a real Adrian Newey masterclass. Yes, there is no battle for the championship. Yes, there is not even a battle for the race wins. Sometimes there's a battle for the pole positions, but they are doing everything right. They built a much faster car than everybody else, and Max Verstappen is one of the best drivers the sport has ever seen. Simple as that, whether you like it or not. Red Bull and Verstappen are doing an amazing job, so now is really the time to respect them as we are witnessing history being made. Red Bull just broke the record for the most consecutive wins for a single team. Moving on to Mercedes. It's quite a difficult year for them once again, but they look more competitive than last year. It seems like sometimes they are fast, but they don't really understand why, and therefore they can't repeat it. There is not much more to say to their 2023 season so far. George Russell is struggling a bit more this year against Hamilton compared to last year. Is Hamilton stronger or Russell a bit weaker?
Hello?
Difficult call, but I'd say Hamilton is back stronger after a surely mentally very difficult 2022. One of Mercedes' biggest strengths in recent history, and one of the reasons why they were so dominant in the sport for so long, is that they were brilliant at converting theory into practice. This means that nearly all of the upgrades they worked out and tested in the wind tunnel or CFD simulator were a success on the track. Since 2022 till now, they converted much less of their developments into actual successful upgrades on the track. Why? I guess because, like I've said before, they don't quite understand the new 2022 rules yet. To be honest, Red Bull seems to be the only team who understand how the 2022 aerodynamics truly work. Let's talk about the clown sound now. Whoa, not this kind of clown, more like this one. He looks pretty terrifying as well, to be honest. Anyways, back to it. Ferrari. A new team principal for 2023 did not bring the changes they hoped it would. The car is now, compared to Red Bull, much worse than last year. And likewise as Mercedes, it seems like they don't understand how the car works. Sometimes they are fast, but every time they are and have the opportunity to grab a decent stack of points, they f it up with the strategy, apart from Canada. But there are actually a few things you have to give to Frederic Vasseur. Firstly, the pit crew is much better than last year. They make much less mistakes and are faster. Another positive thing to note is that the engine is much more reliable than last year. Leclerc in Bahrain seems to be the only technical DNF Ferrari had so far this season. Maybe, just maybe, Vasseur is right when he says that Ferrari is heading into the right direction again. Now we get to the talk of the season, Aston Martin. What an amazing car they put together at the start of the season. Fernando Alonso was on the podium practically every weekend, and Lance Stroll was also up there, but of course not quite as much as Fernando. And there we already have one of the biggest weaknesses of Aston Martin, Stroll. Don't get me wrong, he's everything but a bad driver. However, it is still very much noticeable that he is a paid driver in the first place. Aston Martin would need to build a rocket ship even more ahead of their competitors than Red Bull right now in order to win a Constructors' Championship with him as a second driver. He is just not fast enough to sit in such a capable car. On the other hand, of course, we really have to say that Aston Martin would never be this far up the order if it wasn't for multi-billionaire Lawrence Stroll, his father, because he took over the Force India team, whose owner could not finance his team anymore because of some legal issues back in India. So without Stroll, there is no Aston Martin. Currently, Aston Martin are building a huge new factory with Stroll's money in order to keep up with the development battles in the upcoming season. Because this season they had built a car that was good at the beginning, but as we have seen, they don't have the facilities yet to compete with the top teams in the development battle. At the end of the day, we need to look at the 2023 Aston Martin car the way it is. A very good imitation of the Red Bull car. It is highly doubtable that they would have been able to come up with a completely different design that would have been equally fast. However, you cannot take all credit away from them, because other teams of course have also seen the Red Bull car, but were not able to copy it as well as Aston Martin was. So to say that they have just stolen the design for Red Bull is also not fair at all. I am very curious to see whether Aston Martin can find their over the course of the season lost speed again and drive back onto the podium, at least with Alonso. Now we are coming up to the next big talk of the season, McLaren. At first they were but now they are absolutely flying. They basically redesigned their whole car mid-season and it worked out to perfection. They are a really good example of perfect conversion from theory into practice. What worked in the wind tunnel back at the factory also works on the track for for them. But it was actually not a surprise as big as people might think. None other than two-time F1 World Champion with McLaren, Mika Häkkinen, predicted that this would happen. In an interview earlier this year, he talked about how he had to wait for 7 years in order to win with McLaren, and that he has seen a lot of ups and downs with the team, and at the moment he sees another upcoming for McLaren. He states that the most important thing are the people, alluding to the most recent transfers of key technical staff from Red Bull and Ferrari to the McLaren family. With maybe another big upgrade coming from McLaren, Red Bull could not look that unbeatable after all. For me personally, McLaren is the brightest emerging star for the next few years. I can very well imagine that they will retake their spot in the top teams category once again and start winning races once again and challenge for the championship once again, just like they did back in the old days. Now we are getting to the first of the probably not so happy ones, Alpine. They have lacked speed all season long. Sometimes they are better, fighting for top 6 positions or even the odd podium, but most of the time they are at the bottom end of the top 10, scoring just a few points in nearly every race though, so still better than no points. They have settled into a pretty comfortable P6 in the constructor standings, not getting threatened from behind, but also having no real opportunity of moving forward. Not a lot else to say. Their drivers are both very capable, but the team is just a bit of a mess. You know who's also a bit of a mess? There's a 25% chance that you get it right now. So I must say yes, you're right. I'm talking about Williams, of course. They are a mess, yes, but they look much better than in the years before. With P7 in the constructor standings after the first half of the season done, they actually don't look as bad as you would expect Williams to look performance-wise. In terms of design, they are number 1 by far. The blue Golf Williams is the most beautiful car on the 2023 F1 grid, but as we have learned in recent years, a beautiful car is most of the time not fast. So what is Williams then missing if it isn't style? Facilities.
I don't think you have the facilities for that, big man.
It sounds like an obvious thing to say, but it is just as simple as that. James Wolves, the new team principal at Williams since the beginning of the season,
it's James.
Yeah, that same James, has stated that Williams are 20 years behind the state of the art with some of their facilities. And it is really no wonder that they are so far behind the top teams on the track. It is actually a difficult call how good the Williams car really is this season. There are practically two options. The first one is Alexander Albon is an absolute animal and gets more out of the car than should even be possible, and Sargent is an average rookie. Or the second possibility is that the car is actually as fast as Albon drives, but Logan Sargent is just bad. If the second scenario should be the case, and I would happen to be in charge of Williams for some reason, I would, despite Logan not having scored a single point yet this season, still give him the seat for next year, because I think that he deserves another chance with another car, another year. All in all, I think everybody can agree that it would be beautiful to see Williams start winning again. But I think that this is not a doable task for at least the next 5 years. But I will definitely be monitoring them closely and reporting to you when
James
and his team do something incredible. Alfa Romeo is also a team that needs to do something incredible. They are lacking pace season after season. They were looking promising at the start of the 2022 season, but back then Ferrari was also doing pretty decent, at least for the first couple of races. And that is what is so interesting with Alfa Romeo, or Sauber, how the real name of the team is. Alfa Romeo is just a title sponsor. The interesting thing is that every time Ferrari seems to be good, Sauber is also doing good. And now Ferrari is doing not so good, so Sauber is doing not so good as well. I guess that it is understandable, considering that Sauber is quite a small Swiss team and basically the junior team of Ferrari, just like AlphaTauri is the junior team of Red Bull. But more on that later. But it isn't just all bad this year. Remember Hungary?
Hamilton going for it! He's done it!
Guan Yu qualified P5 while Bottas was in P7. Looks good so far, will be nice points in the race. Or maybe not, because Zhou proceeds to not even start driving as the race starts and goes on to nearly murder 3 of his fellow drivers in turn 1, only for Valtteri to drop out of the points in the meantime. I am very curious to see what happens with Sauber in the future. Exciting times lie ahead of the team as they will be on the track as Sauber again, at least it looks like it for now, from the start of the 2024 season until the end of the 2025 season. And then they will be the stepping stone into F1 for Audi. Maybe then the success will come to Sauber, but is it still Sauber then when Audi moves all facilities to Germany and takes over the team? Nothing but questions that we would only get answered until 2026. It is quite similar with the following team. So many questions and another small Ferrari dependent team, the Gunther team. Haas, Gunther, Ken and Kevin. Just kidding, of course it's team principal Mr. Feiner, Nico Hülkenberg, Kevin Magnussen, and another bad year for Haas. Partly down to the same reasons as Alfa Romeo, Ferrari's bad performance. But the main problem at Haas is actually not Ferrari, but money. Gene Haas is the owner of Haas Automation and the owner of the Haas F1 team. He pushes every little money that he has to spare into the F1 team, but it just doesn't seem to work out for him. Perhaps over all those years he put a bit too much faith into the half Italian, half Austrian meme lord whose name is Gunther. Maybe a change in leadership would not be bad for Haas, or maybe some new technicians, or an aspiring young driver who wants to develop the team and bring it forward. But with all those things, money is probably the obstacle. At the end of the day, not everybody can win, and maybe they are just one of those F1 teams who are there to be there. Somebody needs to fill the last few places as well, and this is probably where Haas has to take its place. I'm so funny. Another team that inevitably has to take its place at the back of the grid is AlphaTauri, which is basically the second team of Red Bull to build up their young drivers before they're going to the Red Bull main team itself. A bit like Sauber, but the only difference is that AlphaTauri's performance doesn't correlate with the Red Bull performance at all, as they are currently having one of the worst seasons in the team's history since 2005, while Red Bull Racing are having one of the best seasons you can possibly imagine. But the struggles of AlphaTauri are soon to stop, because Dr. Helmut Marko, who is basically the lead advisor of the whole Red Bull family, said that this performance is unacceptable and changes will be made. One change already took place around the race weekends of Hungary and Belgium, as new lead figures were introduced to AlphaTauri. Also, the name AlphaTauri is not supposed to stay. AlphaTauri is really a clothing brand from Red Bull, and it will have to move out of the way for whatever the doctor pleases to do. Maybe they are also moving to England, as AlphaTauri is one of only 3 F1 teams that are not located in Great Britain. So also for AlphaTauri, exciting times lay ahead, and maybe with the new team from next year onward, they will be able to challenge for points regularly again. If you made it this far, thank you, I really appreciate it. This actually took a very long time to make, so please like if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, feel free to dislike, subscribe if you want to see more, and have a nice day, bye.